it takes to do this at the highest level. It requires effective, efficient lead follow-up. A lot of the lead follow-up that we're talking about, since this call is all Mike Ferry based, we're not going to get into systems with regard to like, email and social media and drips and all that. The lead follow-up we're talking about primarily on this call is hot lead follow-up. Like somebody walks into your open house, they're like, yeah, well, we just got transferred to the area. We moved from Austin. We're living in an extended, the Marriott, extended stay. Like we need something immediately. We've got 3 kids and 2 dogs, and we can't stay in a residence inn or whatever it is a minute longer than we need to, right? Next point. This is a little bit of a controversial point. I don't know how you can get really very controversial when we're talking about lead follow-up, but let's go for it. This is the most controversial it gets. Remember, the most important part of an effective lead follow-up program is having a large trash can near your desk. You must accept the fact that you will cycle through a large number of leads to achieve your goal. So the reason why this is kind of controversial, a lot of people, they take all these leads and they'll put them in all these campaigns, and that's fine to put them in a campaign. But truly, I think Mark and I were talking about this last week. Mark, when you're doing lead follow-up, you're calling them. I mean, we're calling them, we're call, text, email every day, 3 days in a row, right? 9 touches, 3 days. Like we're all over them, because this might be somebody that you cold call and says, yeah, no, my dad just passed away. I inherited the house. We're going to list it in the next week or 2. We're not going to put them on some drip campaign and just check in with them once a month. We're aggressively going after that. Now, the reason why this point says the most important part of a lead follow-up system is a trash can is because you can't have that level of intensity, Mark, with 100 leads. You can't call 100 people a day, text 100 people a day, email personally, 100 people a day with a very specific devoted email saying like, hey, Mark, I called you and I texted you. I'm really trying to reach you. Do you have some time later today or tomorrow morning to talk? What's better for you? Like you can't have that level of intensity with lead follow-up with more than probably, 3 to 5 to 6 people, right? It's intense. You might call them multiple times a day, right, Mark? I mean, we might call someone, right? A neighbor says, you're door knocking, right? Sean's door knocking. And the neighbor says, oh, that guy, he's going to sell. He just got a job transfer. Believe me, we're calling him. We're knocking on his door in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. And we're just getting after it. There's intensity behind that. Once they determine that they're not going to be a lead, they get off that intensity. They go into the trash can. Now, we'll call our new virtual trash can is just a follow-up campaign of some sort, where it's all automated. And that's okay, because those people will turn into something at some point. It's just that when we have our real intensive, aggressive prospecting and we're looking for now business, we can only give those people a certain that intensity can only be shared amongst a certain number of people, right? And I would imagine, Dave, it's the same for loans, right? I mean, you have somebody that's looking to buy, like they're writing offers, you're following up with them and you're getting them into a loan that's going to work for them quickly, or they're going to go somewhere else, right? When they need it now.
Yeah. Several times a week if they're shopping, if they're actively shopping, I'm following up several times a week.
Yeah. That's awesome. So the next point kind of ties into this. We have to learn to throw leads away, because the better we become at building our business, the fewer leads we will need. So if you're going to do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 deals per year, you only need 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 leads. If they're hot leads, right? We're not talking about getting 500 leads. So now we're at this point in our business where when we say throw away, we're throwing them into some kind of automated system, some type of follow-up system, virtual system, automated email drip, social, whatever it is. But with the level of intensity, we have to learn to remove them from that intense place because it just clogs up the system, right? Mark and I were discussing that again. If you were to try and intensely follow up with 50 people, well, let's see, this person, I talked to them 3 months ago. They said they're going to do something probably in the next 12 months, maybe 24 months, right? You try and follow up with people like that intensely, it ruins the system. It's a bottleneck. You cannot have that level of intensity with that many people. Plus, if you continuously call people with intensity that aren't going to do something for 6 to 12 months, it ruins your own motivation to make the calls. Why am I even making these calls? Every single person I talk to is saying, no, not yet. Call me in the future. They keep kicking the can down the road. It totally ruins your level of intensity if you're following up with people that don't deserve that level of intensity. Now flip that switch over. Flip the other side of the coin is this. Imagine every person you talk to is like, there's like some meat on the bone. There's something you can do with them. There's like intensity and they're responding to that intensity. Then you never lose the enthusiasm for your lead follow-up. First call, you call them, hey, we met, this past weekend at an open house. You said you wanted to buy a property. I wanted to call and set an appointment to meet this week. Oh, sure, Aaron. Yeah. When can we do that? I've got Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon at 4 p.m. What's better for you? Let's do Tuesday. Great. Here's my address. I'll see you then. Next lead follow-up. Hey, I called you on Friday of last week. You had mentioned that you were looking to sell your home. I wanted to follow up and see if we can set an appointment for this week. We're actually going to be interviewing a couple of agents. Can you call me back in a couple of weeks? You know what? Rather than call you in a couple of weeks, especially if you're interviewing a couple of agents, I don't want to miss the opportunity. Let's just set an appointment for this week. When's the best time for us to meet? I think you'll find that when we meet, blah, 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 whatever it is, with that level of intensity, right? It actually makes me want to follow up more, right? If I only have hot people in my lead follow-up, I can't wait to follow up. I can't wait to follow up because there's appointments that come from that. You can't have that level of intensity with a bunch of shitty leads in there. That is not how you make your lead follow-up effective. Deanna had discussed having 10 people, right? Who are your 10, hottest leads? It's probably a good number. Who's your top 10? You could follow up with 10 people aggressively throughout the week. Hold on one second. Let me just tell this person I'll call them back. Okay, next point. Try this on for size. Imagine if you gave yourself 7 days to take a lead and turn them into an appointment. How intense would that become? And then imagine telling yourself, since I only have 7 days to convert this lead to an appointment, I'm not going to be afraid to be aggressive. I'm not going to be afraid to ask questions. I'm not going to leave things for a future follow-up call that I can ask right now. I'm not going to be concerned about really closing for the appointment 2, 3, 4 more times than I feel comfortable with. If you had a minimum standard for your lead follow-up, in other words, I only look for people that want to buy or sell in the next 30 days. Okay. So if I can't turn them into an appointment in the next week or two, then I'm going to throw them out. Let's just say that was your minimum standard. How aggressive would you be with your lead follow-up? Now, it doesn't have to be your standard. You want to make that 90 days? Make it 90 days. You want to make it 6 months? Make it 6 months. But I will tell you that the highest of high producers that follow this system, they don't aggressively or even attempt to aggressively follow up with people. They're not even looking for people that want to do things in the next 12 months. They're looking for now business. 30, 60 days. That's pretty much, I would say, what we look for, right, Mark? Right, Sean? It's like people that are looking to do something now. If they say that they're going to do something 6 months from now, we'll ask some qualifying questions, right, guys? Oh, tell me more about that. What's important about that? Well, I'm taking a job in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm gone for 6 months. When I come back here, 6 months from now, I'll know if that is going to be like a confirmed move that I'm going to make or not. So everything's on ice for 6 months. Perfect. That's somebody I'll follow up with because we've really qualified them. Next point. Most agents have too many leads. They have too many leads. Isn't that crazy? Like you would think, wait, don't you want to have a lot of leads? Well, if you have systems to manage all those leads, yeah. But if you're following this program where you're calling and texting and email and following up, for the hottest of hot leads, you don't need that many. Most agents have too many leads. The disadvantages of having so many leads are the following. There's actually some disadvantages to having too many leads. Now, I guess, by the way, before we go through the 4 disadvantages, you can have 500 leads if it's all automated. There's no disadvantage there. But once a lead becomes a hot lead, there actually is a disadvantage to having too many. The first disadvantage, the bad lead hides the great ones from you. If you've got 4 hot leads and you've allowed 30 to come into your hot lead follow-up system, the bad ones hide the good ones. Meaning, Mark, let's say you're cold calling and you find someone that says they're thinking about selling. And you can't set an appointment with them on that first call. It requires lead follow-up. You follow up with them a second time. Don't answer your call. Then you send them a text. No answer. Email, no answer. You do that 3 days in a row. Or you do it every other day for a week. Or maybe you try 3 or 6 or 9 follow-up attempts or more. At some point, you got to just let it go. Otherwise, the bad ones will hide the great ones. You keep following up with this one guy who said they might do something at some point when the time is right, if things line up. It's like, how many times are you going to follow up with this same person until you're going to say, you know what? I can't aggressively follow up with you because the new people that I'm finding that really require my time and my follow-up and my energy, I'm not going to waste that on you. You don't even have the decency to return my phone call, to answer a text. At some point, you got to let it go, right? So that's disadvantage number 1. Disadvantage number 2 to having too many quote unquote leads. And if most of our leads are not great ones, the urgency for lead follow-up is diminished. Lead follow-up requires urgency, doesn't it? Just imagine a really hot lead. There's a certain urgency that you have in following up with that person. If you have too many crappy leads clogging up your lead follow-up system, that urgency is diminished. You can't have urgency when you know you're following up with people that aren't, in our previous example, returning phone calls. Like, oh God, now I'm going to leave this guy another voicemail, send him another text, another email. At some point, I'm just going to cut him off because he's ruining my urgency with the people that really need it, that people that really appreciate it. The third disadvantage to too many leads clogging up your system. It's a huge waste of time to be tracking and calling people on a regular basis who are not going to be moving in the near future. If they're not going to be making a move, your time is way better spent calling people that are. It's just a waste of time. I'm just listing a property currently. I talked to the guy 3 years ago. Now, I did heavy lead follow-up in the beginning because I thought he was going to do something, and he thought he was going to do something. And then everything just stopped. And I said, all right, call me when you're ready. He called me last week because he was ready. Because I had that level of urgency during that time, he's like, oh, I want this guy handling my stuff. Now, I could have done a better job putting him on a drip or whatever else in the meantime. We don't have that system yet, or we haven't implemented that system. But the point is, I was not going to follow up with someone for 3 years. I was much happier finding people along the way that needed to buy and sell real estate and doing that business rather than taking my time following up on this one guy 3 years later who finally is ready to transact. I'm glad he called me. But he told me why he called me. Actually, I was going to say, I suspect why, but I know why he called me, is because we had such a level of intensity and professionalism when we were talking the last time. He was absolutely convinced that I was going to be able to maximize value for him. You remember that? And that's because we bring a lot of intensity to lead follow-up and value. And the last reason why there can be disadvantages of having too many quote unquote leads is that you get what you're looking for. You get what you're looking for. And you're going to get either an appointment or a future lead to follow up with. If you're just looking for a ton of people to put in your database, you will find a ton of people to put in your database. Right? Sean had shared in the past, before he started working with us closely, he used to prospect looking for email addresses so he can put people in his database. And that's what he got, email addresses. When you start prospecting with intensity and focus, I'm looking for hot, motivated people that want to buy or sell real estate in the next 7 to 10 days or 2 to 4 weeks or whatever it is. That's what you find. You'll get what you're looking for. So if you're doing your lead follow-up with an intensity on, I'm looking for appointments. Are you my next appointment? That's what every lead follow-up call in my mind, that's what I'm saying when that phone is ringing. Are you my next appointment? Are you my next appointment? And I go with that level of intensity on the lead follow-up. And if you're just looking, hey, I'm just calling to touch base. How are things going? Good? Okay, great. Well, you let me know if you need anything. And I'll check in with you in a month or two. Have a great day. That doesn't move the ball down the field. Next point. One of the fears we have with doing lead follow-up is specifically asking for a person's motivation because they may not be motivated. And then we realize we do not have a real lead. That's a fear. That's a real fear with lead follow-up. When you start doing a lot of prospecting, you start to develop a lot of leads, you'll have people to follow up with. Sometimes it's more comfortable not to follow up aggressively. You know what? Subconsciously, you're saying, I don't want to find out if they're really that motivated to buy or sell. What if they tell me they're not? Then I don't have a lead. Think about all the leads you have right now, each one of them. How many do you have? Do you have 3? Do you have 30? Do you have 300? Let's imagine you've got, 15 or 20 leads. People that have said at some point they want to do something. So kind of visualize these people. Picture these people for a minute. What's stopping you from calling them? And saying to them, hey, you had said in the past you wanted to buy or sell a home. Is that something you still want to do? Yes or no? And they say, well, yeah, great. Can we set an appointment for this week? Sure. What's stopping you from saying that? Well, what if you call them up and you say, hey, we had spoken in the past. You said you wanted to, sell your home in Rancho PV. I just wanted to follow up and see, is that something you still want to do? No, we've changed our mind. Oh, no kidding. What happened? Well, we decided to make it to a rental. Oh God, I was already, you're thinking, I was already counting on that money. Like, right? It's crazy, but sometimes agents don't make those calls aggressively because they don't want to know the answer. Hey, do you still want to buy or sell a home? Yeah, we do. Can we set an appointment for this week? No, this week's not good. Why? Well, we've already chosen an agent. Oh, man. Hey, make the calls. Get in touch with people. Remember, our job as agents is very simple. It's 3 things. What is our job? Number 1, generate leads. Number 2, go on appointments. I'm sorry, convert the leads and then go on appointments. So generate, convert, go on appointments. Prospect, lead follow-up, and appointments. That's our job. So Mark, I'll bring you up again because for the longest time, you were just heavy on the prospecting and not on lead follow-up. And therefore, it wasn't turning into business, right? In fact, how many times has this happened where a home will be listed in the marketplace and you're like, oh, I talked to that guy. I would say that's happened 40 times. I was going to say 50. Yeah. Like in the past couple of years, like you've done a lot of prospecting.
A lot. Yeah. A lot of people look back. They're gone. They went, they moved, they sold, they left with someone else. Yeah.
Yeah. It's happened so many times. So that's not a lead gen problem. It's a lead follow-up problem. That's all it is. So now we're putting systems in place, right? So we get super aggressive, like hyper aggressive with our lead follow-up. The whole point of prospecting is to find a lead, right? The whole point of lead follow-up is to set an appointment. That's the only point of lead follow-up. It's to set an appointment, not to create rapport. I mean, rapport creation, I guess, can get you to an appointment also. That's okay. It's not to check in. It's not to remind them that you're in real estate. When you're following up with a lead, a hot lead, remember, we're talking about hot leads here. We're not talking about, people in the database that are on drip campaigns. Hot leads. The point of hot leads is to set an appointment. Leads have no value. Appointments and contracts have value. The reason why we're going for that appointment is because the lead itself has no value. Like we were talking about before, leads have maybe emotional value. I've got all these leads and I'm sure some of them will turn into business. I'm so excited and I don't want to call them because I don't want them to tell me that they're not leads. I don't want them to tell me that they're actually not motivated. But there really is no value in a lead until you set an appointment with them. So based on that, always ask yourself the following question. Is my mindset managing leads or going on appointments? Just think about this for yourself. First of all, do you guys have like a clear, like a viewing accountability of your hot leads? Do you know how to access them? Are they someplace where I said, who are your 3 hottest leads that you could tell me? Is it just in your head? Is it on a spreadsheet? Is it on a piece of paper somewhere or a Post-it note?
I use KV Klapper, and I would recommend it to everybody. If you don't have a good CRM, it really does. I mean, it really has helped me organize my leads and my sphere too. You know what I mean? Because there's obviously you can change the lead status to just sphere, and then, okay, that's, when something becomes no longer a hot lead, I still want the name and phone number.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to follow up once a week.
That's right. Yeah. In the CRM, wherever it is, first of all, do you have the ability? Dave does, but do you have the ability to say, here's my hottest leads right now? Some people carry them around in their pocket. Like they'll literally have their 3 to 5 hottest leads on a 3x5 card ready to pull out at any time or on a note on their phone or whatever it is.
I'll just say that, I mean, I know a lot of people think that they're organized enough to not need a CRM. And I used to think the same thing. And then I realized, earlier this year that, I mean, of course, I've been in the business a long time. I've got 620, names in my sphere. And I took 250 out when I made my list and when I put people into KV Core. But I mean, you think that you're organized enough, but you really, it's impossible to remember everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with you. And even if you do think, like me personally, it's like, yeah, I got it. Like, even if I am organized enough without it, all you're doing is limiting your business. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm organized and I'm okay with doing 10 to 15 transactions a year. Sure. But if you want to scale out at all, like you have to have that CRM, you have to continue that follow-up and then keep updating them.
Yeah. So when you have that question in mind, is my mindset managing leads or going on appointments? Is my mindset managing leads or going on? Think about your hottest hot leads. The hottest leads that you have right now. There might be one. I can think of in the forefront of my mind, I've got two right now. One buyer, one seller. Those are my hottest leads right now. Like they're top of mind. I don't need a CRM for them. They're in the CRM, but that's how infatuated I am. Like that's all I think about is how to move that ball down the field. So with those two people, is my mindset managing leads or going on appointments? It's appointments. It's how do I turn that listing into, a signed agreement and getting it on the market, and how do I turn that buyer into an escrow? That's all I'm thinking about. That's like I'm infatuated with it. So what is your mindset towards lead follow-up? Is it managing leads? Is it just pushing paper? Is it just pushing leads around? Oh, I'm going to move them from this section to that section, and then that section to this section. And then when no, let's set some appointments here. Call your leads and think about your hot leads. Call them up and set an appointment. The primary purpose, next point, the primary purpose of lead follow-up is to keep reselling our clients on an appointment, not just keep building rapport. It's reselling them on the importance of setting an appointment, not just, hey, how are you? I was thinking about you. How was golf this weekend? Oh, good. Okay. Talk to you next week. Nobody wants that. Leads do not represent security. They're just names on a piece of paper. Or they're just names in a database somewhere. They are not security. You cannot take those leads and sell them. You can't make your mortgage payment with them. You can't purchase a car. You can't even get a damn cup of coffee with them. They're just names on a piece of paper. That's all a lead is. But when does it become valuable? When that lead becomes an appointment or a listing or an escrow.
I would say too, Klapper, that honestly, if you could turn that lead into a relationship, like a personal relationship, or you get to the point where you could call it a friendship, that, and that's the way I really have kind of attacked the business over the time that I've been in the business, is I really try and, find some common ground with leads, I guess you'd say, and try and forge a friendship, invite them to dinner, or, have them to the house, whatever. And that necessarily would work for everyone, but for me, once you have that friendship, people are a lot less apt to walk into an open house and buy and then use the stooge sitting in the open house to write their offer for them.
Yep. Well, yeah. I mean, but I realize what you're doing there. You're actually just you're adding them to your COI, right? You're bringing them to your center of influence. There's a different level of rapport that's being built. So yeah, for sure. Now you've got somebody that is a current lead and then a future source of business as well. And that's right, done.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, as part of lead follow-up, I think the goal should be to turn the leads into relationships and not just, somebody that I'm harassing to see if they want to buy a house. But, especially if you have somebody that is, as you always say, ready, willing, able, and ready to go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another point also is to remember the power of just talking to people. We have so many we overprotect our leads by putting them into computers and elaborate systems rather than sometimes just calling them every day. Shoot them a text. Hey, do you have a second to chat? I had an idea. I just heard about a really cool property. You got a second to chat? I want to jump on the phone with you. There's so many elaborate systems out there. And they're great for your COI. They're great for your database. They're great for the people to build rapport and build relationship and do all that. But just for today's conversation, hot lead follow-up. Don't ever count on the system. At some point, you got to take that person from the system and you got to meet with them and you got to, sit down and give them a listing presentation or show them a house. So, don't be afraid to call people. It's so important. How many times have you guys sold homes, or Dave, how many times have you done loans, never ever talking to a person? Just, no, they're in my database. And then it turns into a loan or turns to a home sold. Or no, through email.
I actually have done a couple loans through business managers of like I won't like some Hollywood elite types, musicians, and I've never actually spoken to the actual client. I've only dealt with the accountant.
Yep. Yeah, it's not that it never happens. Like I actually have sold a house once. I never met the seller in person. I talked with them over the phone. I never met the buyer in person. I never saw the house, and I put the whole deal together and I represented both sides. So that happens rarely. I don't think you can build a career on that, right? It happens, and it makes a funny story, But but being as they say, belly to belly, or just in person, right? This is a very personal business, which is the beauty of it. That's great. That means that our jobs are not going to be taken over by AI one day. That there is a certain requirement, a human requirement, that at least for now is still a necessity for the transaction, which is really nice. Next point. We have to remove the following thought. I can take a non-motivated person and through long-term lead follow-up, make them motivated. This is pure business. This is poor business thinking, and it's pure ego. I can take a non-motivated person and through long-term lead follow-up, make them motivated. Let's say you're knocking on doors. Yeah, we love the house. Maybe we'll move one day. Where would you go to? Yeah, I don't really know. We'd probably stay in the area. Okay, would you get a bigger house, a smaller house, closer to the beach? Well, nah, I guess maybe a bigger house, but it's not that important. We're really happy in our house. Okay, good. Now I'm thinking, I'm going to follow up with this person aggressively, and I'm going to make that person motivated. No, you're not going to make that person motivated. Don't think through some magical, intelligence that you have, you're going to take a non-motivated person, and all of a sudden, at some point, you're going to make them motivated just because you want to get a paycheck. Ain't going to happen. People don't move that casually. Better to just look for motivated people. Next point. Kind of alluded to this earlier, but prospecting without good lead follow-up is a complete waste of time. All that time we spend prospecting. All that time. Mark does it for 3 hours a day. Sean does it for 3 hours a day. All that time prospecting without good lead follow-up, total waste of time. Might as well just not do it. That's the importance of lead follow-up. Now, let's say you're not a cold caller or a door knocker. You spend money on systems. All those systems. Maybe you get money. Maybe you get leads from, Zillow or Realtor.com or OpCity or Ojo or any of those, Veterans United or whatever. There's time, effort, energy, money spent into building those relationships, building those systems, and you get those leads, and you're not going to do strong lead follow-up. Total waste of time. Prospecting without good lead follow-up is a total waste of time. Just keep that in mind. They're as important. Prospecting is step number one. Lead follow-up is step number two. They rely on each other. You can't just do the prospecting and expect leads to list themselves, to sell their own, to sell themselves homes. You can't just generate the leads and expect people to be 100% loyal all the time. I can't believe they didn't call me to list their home. I can't believe it. We had such good rapport when we talked 6 months ago. Nope. Next point, let your prospects know that you're going to call them aggressively to demonstrate the type of service that you offer. How about that for an initial conversation? How about meeting somebody in an open house and telling them, listen, let me take your name and phone number so I can follow up with you. And they say, we really don't want to get a lot of calls. Listen, I totally appreciate that. But the truth of the matter is, if you're aggressively looking for a home, you want me aggressively following up with you so we can, that's what it takes in this market to find a home. Now, how important is it that you find a home? Is it like not that important or is it super important? No, it's super important. Well, you want me to follow up with you. You want me to call you when I have something hot. Do you not? No, we do want that. Great. Let me take your phone number. Let your prospects know that you're going to call them aggressively. That's okay. It demonstrates this type of service. Hey, listen, I want you to know ahead of time the way that I do my business, okay? First of all, I only work with motivated people that really want to do something. Why? Because I'm a little intense in getting the results. So I want to ask you ahead of time, do you absolutely have to buy this home, or is this just like not that important to you? No, we absolutely have to do it. Okay, great. I like to lay out those things ahead of time so people know what they're getting. And then there's no surprise. They know what I'm calling for a reason. I'm not calling to shoot the shit. I'm calling because I got a home for them. When they see me coming up on call ID, they're picking up the phone. Klapper, what you got? I got something off market. You ready to see it? You want us to go this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon? What's better for you? Oh, we can do it this afternoon. And second to last point, this is a good one. Remember this question. Have you lost more business because we overcall or undercall our leads? Think about that. Who's lost a deal from overcalling them? And then they went and listed with someone else. You called me too much. You're too aggressive. It's never happened to me. The opposite has happened to me. Damn it, you do not stop calling. I'm ready to meet with you now. You're the one that's going to get this thing done. Motivated people love aggressive agents. Motivated people, not non-motivated people, it's annoying. If you're not motivated, it's super annoying to get a call from an agent again and again and again. But remember, we got this intensity for a reason. These are motivated people. And the last point of the day, which is call and ask prospects the following 2 questions. This is how simple Mike Ferry's lead follow-up system is. Do you still have to buy or sell a home? Question number 1. Can we set an appointment for this week? Question number 2. Call every lead you have. Do it today. Ask them those 2 questions. Do you still have to buy or sell a home? Can we set an appointment for this week? That'll turn your leads into appointments. And if they don't turn into appointments, then you'll draw out why. Hey, do you still have to buy or sell a home? Well, yeah. Can we set an appointment for this week? No. Well, tell me more about that. Why can't we set an appointment for this week? Well, because I think I've already chosen the agent I'm working with. Now we have an objection to handle. Perfect. And then you can handle that objection and then go for the appointment again. All right, let's open the mics real quick. Who's got some questions, concerns, anything that we can discuss as a group before we jump off for the week? All right, cool. Good stuff, guys. All right, thanks for your time today. Have an awesome week. Go out there and crush it. I'll talk to you next week. Take good care, guys.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.